Welcome to the Content and Media Matters podcast. Your host today are me, Tom Wilding, Director at Nuco, and my colleague Daisy Still. And we're delighted to be joined by Jon Wilson, CEO at Grass Valley. Welcome, Jon.
Hey, Tom. Thanks very much for having me, and Daisy likewise as well. So happy to be here and have a great conversation.
Good. Hold on to your seats. We're going to go through a short bio, share a bit of detail to our listeners about your background, and then we're very keen to jump into a bit about you. So, Jon is leading one of the most iconic brands in the broadcast and media technology space, which is currently going through one of the boldest transformations within its 65-year history with a career that spanned leadership roles in finance, operations, focused predominantly on execution of those things. Jon brings a leadership style focused on growth and building high-performing teams, driving something meaningful where he can, and ultimately delivering results as a role of his stature requires. Under Jon's leadership, Grass Valley is shifting from legacy to being an industry leader, trying to sort of take that to reality and ultimately powering some of the world's most demanding live production environments with their cloud-native solutions and platforms and a very customer-first approach. So I hope, Jon, that's a fair reflection on you.
I think so, Tom. I appreciate all the recognition and long background. The reality is, for me, I'm a pretty humble guy. So these big intros always make me a little kind of uncomfortable. But at the same time, it's look, I've been very fortunate to have a fantastic career to this point, and I'm very fortunate to be, as you said, leading one of the most iconic brands in the media industry, right? And it's a responsibility that I take very seriously. Our team takes very seriously, and again, something I'm very fortunate to be a part of in leading Grass Valley through the next phase of many transformations over time, right? Like many companies go through, there's lots of transformations. If you're not transforming as a business, you're going to get left behind, especially in the technology space. And this is yet the next chapter of GV. And again, I'm very thankful and fortunate to be at the helm, leading a fantastic team of 900 people around the globe.
Yeah, it's so exciting, and we're super excited to kind of dive into that later on. Today, we'll be talking all things Jon, people, the content and media industry. But to get us started, we always love to ask, how did you first get into the media industry?
Yeah, so not to maybe spend too much time on it, but spent my first 6 years of my career at KPMG in public accounting. Had an opportunity to jump off to a telecom communications equipment provider in Portland, Oregon by the name of Radisys. So that was 2011 timeframe. Rose up through the accounting ranks there, ultimately became the CFO. And then we sold that business in late 2018 to one of our largest customers, Reliance Jio in India. And it was an opportunity for me to kind of step back and take stock and kind of determine, well, what's next? And at that point in my career, I kind of made the decision that I'll say going back earlier in my career, I never thought that I want to be a CFO and maybe I want to be a CEO one day. But at this point in time, like what I love more than anything is leading people and building great teams. And I kind of said, well, geez, I really want to push myself to see if I can get to a point where I could be a CEO one day. And had an opportunity to jump off that was presented to me to Telestream. So this was my foray into the media industry. I connected with the private equity owner at the time, Genstar Capital, had a great series of conversations, met the Telestream team, and it felt very much like a natural fit for me to move from the vendor side in telecom equipment into the media industry, still on the vendor side. And in a CFO position where you don't have to have domain and subject matter expertise per se, but it's a tremendous opportunity in that seat if you're intellectually curious to learn a lot about an industry. And so that was April 2019 when I joined Telestream. And it was a really interesting time at Telestream because at that point in time, Telestream had just announced the acquisition of the tech video business from Tektronix. So they were going through a big transformation. And I had an opportunity to just get across a ton of different operational areas of the business. And so it was a super steep learning curve for me coming in, which personally I love. So got in with the Telestream team, ultimately over time, had a lot of rope thrown at my feet by Dan Castles, the CEO of Telestream. Dan's the type of guy where as you build trust, he lets you continue to go and go, and had an opportunity then as a result to step into more operational oversight of the business. And then what was it? I guess in 2023, I joined Grass Valley, and so had risen to president, COO at Telestream, and had an opportunity present itself to connect with Lewis and Black Dragon around a grass opportunity at Grass Valley. And it was very much around opportunity to step in a similar position, but with a path, again, if you earn it and things go well, to ultimately become CEO. And so thankfully that's all happened. It's it's yes, I guess in part of the work I've done, but it's largely the result of the great work that, again, the 900 people across GV have done over the last few years to really put the business in a great position go forward.
It's a really fascinating journey, and I can see the appeal from the consultancy background to covering a broader set of skills than just finance. But the route to CEO is different across every CEO in any industry. How useful do you think it's been for you having that financial background in terms of fulfilling the role of a CEO?
For me, it's been incredibly helpful, Tom, right? It's given me a broad tool set, starting, from early in my career to learn, to start with a financial background to help, really get a broad perspective on how different businesses operate, right? What strong financial models look like, and really to be able, especially a company like Grass Valley that's been undergoing a major transformation. And again, as I referenced earlier, every business needs to be continuously transforming, but it's all going to be underpinned by a healthy financial model, right? And I think that the ability to not just operate in the here and now, but kind of with that financial background, looking out into the future of what are the decisions that we're making today, how do they impact us, not just a few months from now, but actually a year, 2, 3 years from now. What do those returns look like? How do we really wire the business to be financially sound is critically important. So that's been a really beneficial background for me. And then look, the operational experience, I think, is one where you really just only learn by diving in, right? And spending the time and pushing yourself kind of into a lot of uncomfortable areas initially where you're not a subject matter expertise. And you could say that just about anything. But you've got to be, but you got to be humble and hungry to be able to really dig in and push yourself.
I'd imagine that for a board, having such a grounding on understanding what financial success looks like and really means is probably quite reassuring as well.
It is, for sure, especially in a private equity backed business like we're in, right? That's kind of just probably a minimum level of expectation. I think where one of the big steps for me over time has been then layering on the storytelling aspect, right? For whether that's to a board, whether that's internally to the team at GV, or just the industry more broadly with our customers and others. That is something that you only learn by actually taking turns at bat, to use a sports analogy, which I'm a big sports guy from very early days in my life. You have to get the reps in. Right. But that storytelling aspect, like it's one thing to be able to know the numbers really well. It's another thing to be able to turn those into a story that you can translate to a broad set of audiences, which is now in my seat as the CEO, but even as a CFO, the strongest leaders are the ones that can tell a story around how it all comes together, why we're doing what we're doing, and what ultimately the impact that we're expecting.
It's miraculous the amount of people that have referenced sports and leadership in sort of, close conversation. What was your sport when you were younger?
I was a baseball and basketball guy, but baseball, if I had to pick one, it was baseball for me.
Oh, very good. I've watched a game of baseball and it was longer than I anticipated.
It's
did not enjoy it, but it was long.
They can be quite long, Tom. It's gotten it. They've done some really good things over the last few years to streamline the game. Still can't avoid the extra innings when it's tied at the end of the game. But it's great. And I was just in Asia for a couple of weeks. I missed most of the World Series, which is always. I'm not someone that watches every game throughout the year, but I love to watch the World Series and just great competition. And I was in Singapore for Game 7 of the World Series the other week. I'm trying to figure out, how do I get, with all the streaming platforms today and everything, how can I get access? So I actually bought a subscription to SPO TV such that I could watch Game 7 of the World Series Sunday morning in Singapore, which was fabulous, right? It was just ended up being a great end of the series.
Who are you rooting for, Dodgers or Blue Jays?
I was kind of rooting for the Blue Jays. Just felt like they were a little bit the underdog, and look, they still have a big payroll as well. But I thought it would have been nice for them to win. I grew up a Seattle Mariners fan, growing up in Seattle, and so I was disappointed they didn't make it to the series. And now I've adopted the Red Sox, being based in Boston here, and just being such a baseball fan. My wife Jen and I live literally a mile from Fenway Park here in the city, so it's easy to get to games. When I'm in town.
I can only imagine the spectacle. That's a proper ground. Tell me about getting into the sort of really interesting bits around your background. Who or potentially what has been most influential on the journey that you've taken up until now?
Oh, wow. So I mentioned Dan Castles at Telestream being a CEO who threw a lot of rope at my feet and just allowed you to really to go, right. And to try new things and, while still having, a strong support model around you to be successful and phone a friend when you needed to and continue to go. And so Dan was instrumental in my growth on the Telestream side. Now kind of taking the next steps. Before that, I had a very similar CEO at Radisys, Brian Bronson, who was a huge mentor for me. And Brian and I still stay in touch today. It was interesting, actually, when I interviewed at Radisys, going back and was jumping out from public accounting, I was interviewing for an assistant controller role, and I was excited about it. It was like, it's something new, right? Jumping off. And I interviewed with the corporate controller, and I thought he was, somebody I could build my career with, but I actually really I asked to interview with Brian, the CFO, because I ultimately knew at that point in my career, I wanted to eventually become a CFO. And so at the end of the interview, I asked Brian, I was very interested in joining. I said, Brian, if I'm going to join, I'm very interested, but if I'm going to join, I'd actually ask for your commitment to be a mentor for me. And Brian said, he calls me J-Dub. He's like, absolutely, J-Dub, game on, let's do this. And so I joined and started this journey with Brian and the team at Radisys. And so Brian, Dan had been big mentors for me. And then even in my public accounting days, and I think if I look back, I've been very fortunate to have incredible mentors over time, even from the first internship I did at KPMG. A gentleman by the name of Michael Johns was another person who just threw a ton of rope at my feet, just said, push me into the uncomfortable, push me into the unknown to ultimately push myself to be my best self. And that's, I think, for me, as I look back, I've just, again, been incredibly fortunate to have great mentors. Those are the three that really come up for me.
And that theme of throwing people into the deep end, giving them that opportunity, is that something that you tried to take on board in your leadership style, or have you done something differently being pushed into leadership?
Yeah, no, I very much try to do that where it makes sense, Tom. And I think part of that is, building. It's really, first, it starts with building trust over time, right, with your team members, and also understanding, right, what they're capable of, and seeing the art of the possible with them. And so I've got, great examples, over my career of kind of similar, I'll say, mentees or other leaders that have worked for me, that as I've kind of pushed them into the deep end, they've flourished, right? And that's, there's nothing better than seeing great people realize what they're capable of, right? And that's what I get a lot of I get a lot of reward out of as a leader. And I think that goes back to, for me, again, early days in my life, team sports, right? And when I think about team sports, baseball, I was a catcher. I was the field general, right? I was command and control all the time, always leading the team. I was a point guard in basketball. Unfortunately, never grew taller than 5'9", so my basketball career ended up being more limited than I would have hoped. But that's, again, there's nothing better than seeing people realize what they're capable of.
Speaking as a leader, I agree. It's a unique satisfaction watching people develop and grow. So you've had a journey that I would say is fairly unique to the industry, and that so many people in broadcast and media start in broadcast and media because that's what they've always wanted to do, and they're fulfilling childhood dreams by being involved in an industry that impacts so many people. Your journey's been relatively unique.
Mm-hmm.
Can you pinpoint a theme or something, something that you think's been really significant for your journey that's helped enable the success that you have had in what is a relatively short space of time? Because I think typically at a senior level, the people that we speak to are typically longer in their careers and certainly longer in the broadcast and media space.
Yeah. So probably a few things that come to mind, Tom. First, I'll go back to having fantastic mentors, right? So starting with Dan at Telestream in the media space. And again, getting me, pushing me to learn about the business, not just about the numbers, right? Was big. And then fast forward to Grass Valley, Lewis, my now boss, but different, and now he's the executive chairman and owner of Grass Valley, has been that next fantastic mentor for me, right? In terms of pushing me, and Lewis has pushed me in different ways to think a lot more about the front end of the business and sales and marketing, where at Telestream, even though I had more operational purview, I was more internally focused. And so that next significant mentorship for me was working with Lewis, who's highly engaged on the front end of the business with sales and marketing and commercially focused. And that's working with Lewis and him kind of helping me flourish from that perspective has been fantastic. So mentorship, number one, and people that, again, like anything, you got to earn it, but they see maybe what you're capable of, and they push you to realize the art of the possible for yourself. So that's been big. I mentioned this earlier. I'm all about humble and hungry. I talk about that a lot internally and with others as well. But I think it's that humble approach that I hope allows me to connect with people. And I try not to come to conversations with a lot of assumptions, try to come to conversations with, I'm here to learn. I have a perspective, but I'm here to learn, whether it's about our customers' businesses, whether it's about the businesses at Grass Valley, Telestream, others, right? And then bring the perspectives that have shaped my career over time, see how can we drive forward together. So I think that's been instrumental for me. And then part of that as well is being intellectually curious, right? Really digging in. Ultimately, I really love and enjoy leading people. Right. That's what I get a ton of enjoyment out of. But part of that, as I think about the media industry, it's such an interesting industry, right? The convergence of creators and technologists to bring live broadcasts to life. I mean, what our customers do on a day in, day out basis is incredible. And we're here to support them being successful. I think that's just, again, being intellectually curious to really learn the business as much inside out. But again, bringing that humble approach where in a CEO seat or any senior leadership position, you can't be an expert on everything. So you have to know where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, surround yourself with great people that ultimately allow you to complement those weaknesses, complement the strengths as well, and build a great team. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is building a great team.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I love the curiosity, like coming into every conversation to learn, like every conversation you can learn from, right? I think that's so nice and a really good piece of advice for people like me joining into the world. But now let's talk about people. We've kind of been talking about people, as you mentioned, that you love leading teams, but the people behind the progress within the industry. One of the most amazing things in any industry is, of course, it's people. It's what makes it up. And the content and media industry is no different. You mentioned you loved leading teams, so I'm really interested to explore your kind of point of view on some of these in such a changing landscape, I guess.
It is.
How do you approach kind of building and scaling really high performing teams?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So for me, it starts with being very clear. So actually, step back. I have to be consistent day in, day out and bring the same level. Like I do my best to show up every day as my best self and bring the same level of energy, whether I'm halfway around the world, whether I'm working from home in Boston or here today from my wife's design office here in Boston, right? I've got to bring that same level of energy and enthusiasm and positivity to the organization to, I think, give everybody hope, right? Because for like whether you're in Grass Valley or other companies, there's so much work to do, right? And everybody, it's easy to get stuck in a rut of I'm in the day to day, but it's uplifting everybody to make sure they're very clear on where we're going and how even the small tasks within the organization contribute to the greater goal of where we're trying to go. So number one is being super clear on the strategy, clear and consistent on the strategy. And I think that was one of the reasons that attracted me to Grass Valley is GV's been pretty darn consistent on the strategy for the last number of years in terms of what we're building towards. What's been really cool to see over the last 12 to 18 months is the reality of what we can deliver and execute on has really caught up with that strategy. And it's been super encouraging to see that and start to build the flywheel in terms of momentum of where we're going. So that's number one. Number two is being really clear on the value structure. And I'll say operating from that value structure for me personally, but then also imparting that where it makes sense into the organization such that we as a team at GV understand what success looks like, but then also how do we engage with each other in an effective manner to be an even stronger team. So those are two big pieces. And then the third is making sure we hire the best talent, right? And that starts up front with the interview process, making sure our teams understand what types of individuals are we trying to bring into Grass Valley, realizing that we've got 900 great people today, but as people decide to move on for whatever reason, or we're hiring new people in the organization, it's critically important to ensure that they have a similar value structure to what we're trying to build for at GV over time. And there's an organizational fit. Well, at the same time, we need new ideas from people to push our perspectives and our thinking and ultimately make us a better organization over time.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. And I mean, what do you look for in those people? I mean, to build those kind of scaling teams?
Yeah. So for me, if I'm interviewing somebody, one, I'll come back to some of the core tenets I've mentioned already. So humble and hungry is really important for me. Okay. I talk about that a lot. That intellectual curiosity. I like people that have, as I look at someone's, it's not actually about the resume to me. It's more about the personal conversation. Like it's really important for me to get to know the individual and what drives them. Right. Especially, and I'm now focused more on if I'm hiring senior leaders into the organization, for example, but even anyone in our organization, we really need people. And I want people to join GV that are going to push themselves, that want to be part of something bigger than themselves, but also want to have the opportunity to grow within the organization, realizing that opportunities for growth, at least from a title or career perspective, might not always present themselves. But if you work hard, if you do the right things, you're going to have the opportunity to be recognized, right? And sometimes recognition takes many different forms. But ultimately, my goal is to continue to provide our 900 people at GV with the opportunity to continue to grow their careers and grow themselves professionally and personally along that journey.
Yeah, I love that. That's what Tom always says. Tom always says, if you keep doing the right thing, good things will happen. It's quite funny. Yeah.
It's interesting, Daisy. I'll go back. Like my high school baseball coach, and I've referenced this to teams a number of times. My high school baseball coach told us, probably my sophomore year of high school, we were going through a rough patch, and he was talking about leadership and whatnot, and how we need to take the next steps. And he said, luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And I truly believe that. So I've been very fortunate that I've worked very hard. I feel like I've been very lucky from that perspective, but just because you work hard, just because you do all the right things, doesn't mean the opportunity is necessarily always going to be there to take that next step and progress in your career. But at the same time, you've got to go seek out those opportunities. You got to go push for those opportunities for yourself, but you have to earn them in the first place by putting in the work and the effort and really earning that opportunity, and then step right through the door when it presents itself. Even though it's might be into the unknown, you go push yourself into the next thing.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. And I mean, also on the kind of topic of people, what's your kind of strategy for attracting and retaining like top talent in this kind of space?
For me, it's being super visible. And just for me personally, being super visible, encouraging our teams to be visible as well, bringing those same tenets that I've mentioned previously, but then also making sure that our teams know that they've got the full support of our leadership team to be successful. And I talk about that a lot with our teams. At the same time, that's not for come to Uncle John and I'm going to fix all your problems. We can't build a successful scaled business that way. But what it does mean is I'm going to spend the time. The leadership's going to spend the time. You're joining an organization with a leadership team that's deeply committed. And I think that's what I see continuing to come across as we have conversations, we bring new talent into the organization. People feel like they're joining an organization that is on an upward trajectory here, in part because of how we're driving the business at the front end and how highly engaged our leadership team is making a big difference.
Yeah, no, that's really, really amazing. Cool. So in terms of the people and talent side of things, there are obviously some maybe key talent topics that need addressing. What do you see in terms of talent topics that need addressing?
Yeah, so
in the industry in general.
Yeah, in the industry, I'll take it from a Grass Valley perspective, and then the industry in general. So from a Grass Valley perspective, we've brought a lot of new talent into the organization over the last few years. Part of what we're trying to do, two things within GV. One, continue to ensure that we train up the new people that come into the organization. It's not necessarily through formal training, but give them more and more exposure to broadcast. Because in a lot of cases, we might be bringing in software developers that are fantastic developers, but they may not have been in broadcast before. And they need to understand what's at stake for our customers when they're on air 24/7, 365. Right. It's very different than maybe coming from other industries where there's less on the line from an end customer perspective. So it's providing those experiences to our engineers or any other organization across the business to ensure that, ultimately we're in business for our customers to be successful. And if we can provide as much exposure to our teams of what it means to be a customer at Grass Valley, what drives our customers' businesses, it's going to make us stronger. So that's one. The other piece is continuing to develop the talent and leadership in the organization. So we hired someone a little over a year ago who's come in and developed a leadership training program for us at GV, developed a high performing talent program for us at GV, put a lot of effort into that over the course of the past year. And we're seeing some I'll say, early signs of momentum and success within those programs. And now we need to continue to build on that with our team members that have been a part of those programs, but then also get that into the next layer in the organization, right? Start to develop those champions within the organization that can continue to push us forward, whether it's from a leadership perspective or even our high performers, to bring everyone up within the organization. So that's where we're focused at GV. I'll say more macro for the industry, not surprising to anyone. This industry has a tremendous amount of talent, but we need to continue to find new ways to bring young people into broadcast. Right. And that's just a reality of what we're facing in this industry. And so both the next generation of talent, right, into the industry, but also a diverse range of talent. Right. And that's, I don't have the secret. I haven't figured out the secret sauce yet in terms of how we get there. But I've been encouraged. Even I was just in Grass Valley, California with our team earlier this week. And we just hired a new engineer out of university, started with us in September, Miles. And it was fantastic. It's like, I get a lot of energy out of that. Miles just joining the business. He's excited. He's just starting his career. So part of that for us is also, we had an opportunity to spend some time together, right? Making sure that we provide exposure to, coming back to that, to the more junior people or fresh out of university joiners that are joining the business, to make sure they have exposure across the organization as much as possible to understand, wow, this is like, get a full perspective and make sure that we're accessible as a leadership team, but then not just our leadership team, others in the organization, to give them a perspective, but also have them feel like this is a fantastic place to work. This is a really interesting industry and somewhere that they can really build their career.
Grass Valley are a business with a huge amount of legacy, and you've spoken passionately about them throughout your responses to previous questions. With legacy comes challenge, it comes opportunity, but there comes challenge. And we've spoken about being in this direction of transformation, which, albeit always ongoing, is one that with a business with a touch more legacy, I suppose there's a bit more transformation to address. So how have you, as a leadership team, decided that strategy, set that strategy? And then most importantly, what are you and the business doing to execute upon that?
Yeah, great question, Tom. So I'll say the strategy, again, and many will know this, was set a number of years ago in terms of a future vision for where we saw the industry going, and leveraging all the heritage, and I'll say heritage, not legacy, because so leveraging all the heritage that we have of over 65 years of Grass Valley, but then you add up all the companies that are a part of Grass Valley, it's hundreds of years of heritage in this industry, deep domain expertise. Yet we saw the need for the industry to transform more towards enterprise IT, but merging enterprise IT with broadcast standards, towards software, virtualization. But there's a lot of complexity in that. I think one of the aspects, so that was how the strategy was set in terms of the vision, where we see the industry going. And I'll say that's resonated very deeply with customers, Tom and Daisy, in terms of where they see the future as well. But then you've got to bring that back to the ground with customers, because that they all may buy into that's where they see they need to go, but everyone's in a different state of transformation of their own business. And by the way, as we know, the media industry just broadly has been under a state of tremendous flux and transformation itself, right? In terms of now having to go from just linear to now you have multiple distribution platforms, linear, OTT, your own OTT offerings, sports rights fees are through the roof, fees for talent, all the things. There's a tremendous amount of disruption. And then, oh, by the way, you have to try to transform your just underlying technology infrastructure as well. There's a lot to do. The cool thing with that is, some would say that's a challenge. I'd say that's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to think differently, but then it's working with our customers to chart a course for where do we start, right? And in a lot of cases, we're starting small. I think where we missed as Grass Valley, as we were going through our transformation, is we were coming in with the big pitch and vision, which was resonating. But then customers, what we missed on early days was a lot of customers were saying, but bring it back to ground for me, because the reality is I'm here today. I've got a vision of where I want to go, but that can't all happen overnight. That can't all happen within the next 6 to 12 months. And what I'm hearing from Grass Valley is you're all in on this vision towards software, but I still need a lot of your hardware products today because I rely on you. You're a critical component of my broadcast infrastructure. I think we've done a much better job of, number one, messaging that now, spending time directly with our customers, not just on the vision and strategy, but also then how can we execute and deliver for you today and begin to create that bridge towards a better future from a technology stack perspective. But that it takes time. It takes time being present in market with customers. It takes time delivering on what you said you were going to do. And that's where we've been, I'll say, increasingly focused, Tom and Daisy, over the past 12 to 18 months is on doing what we said we were going to do. And is it always perfect? No, it's not. It's not ever going to be, but it's about being consistent with your customers. It's acknowledging when you missed on something, but it's also then making sure you fast follow to deliver on the expectations that you've set, and ultimately showing that consistency over time, which leads to great relationships and trust and buy-in that we can then start to get to the next things together.
I love how you presented that, because so often transformation, I don't see it negatively, but I think a lot of people do. I think they see it as the connotations of change and restructure, and, but threaded throughout any element of change is opportunity. And if you've got the perspective to see that, through leadership that tells that story and explains that why, because I think sometimes that why is something that isn't always as clear to some. Actually, it can be a really powerful thing in invigorating a workforce and bringing everyone together towards a more similar message. You're not new to the industry now, I don't think that's fair to say. But from an industry perspective, what excites you most about the future of the media production space?
It's that's a really interesting question. So I just see there's so much disruption going on in the space broadly and it starts with our customers, right? In terms of their businesses. And with that disruption, again, I'll come back to it, creates opportunity. Now, that opportunity is difficult to see through the fog when there's so much going on. There's consolidation, there's uncertainty. But at the end of the day, I think there's a bright future ahead for the industry. The reality is live television's not going away. Live television will continue to transform in terms of delivery models, right? In terms of the content that's coming to air, how all those things change consumer behaviors. It's an incredibly fascinating space, and we're part of the storytelling industry, right? And those stories, the tools that can be brought to bear to tell better stories, to tell them to broader audiences, will continue to be greater than ever before. So I see it again as a big opportunity for the industry go forward. There's going to continue to be probably a lot of disruption and uncertainty over the next number of years in terms of what the landscape looks like. But the reality is, fast forward 5 years from now, we'll feel like, oh, things have settled down, and then there'll be the next change. We're in the tech. That's business, right? And what I value a lot is spending time with our customers, talking about where they see the next 5 to 10 years. And in some cases, there's similarities. In a lot of cases, there's differences. And I think that's a reflection of, from a customer perspective, reflects the disruption that's going on in the space and what may settle out. But ultimately, people need to take bets. And what's encouraging is we're seeing customers take bets, right? They're taking risks. They're leaning into some of that risk to try new things. And with embracing new, I'll say, software-centric, virtualized approaches to technology infrastructure, we're actually helping enable them to take more calculated risk than before, when they had to invest in a piece of hardware that did one thing, did it really, really well. And by the way, we still have a lot of that in our portfolio, and we will for a long time. But now with a new modern approach to broadcast tools, they can take more calculated risks. And then if it doesn't pan out, well, then they can turn that into something else, go forward from a tool set perspective.
and also by maintaining that consistency for the customer, you earn a right for them, I suppose, to take a higher element of risk with you, or to be more comfortable with the risk, rather than without that consistency.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Tom. And part of that, for us is making sure we're spending time consistently with our customers. We're building the relationships all throughout the organization to build that level of trust, because the reality is, come back to, like, it's not all going to go perfect all the time. We're going to run into challenges. There's going to be speed bumps along the way, but knowing that you have a partnership that you can lean on when times get tough is more important than ever before, especially in a state of transformation and change.
You don't have to say the exact customer, but what is your favorite region to visit when you are visiting customers?
Oh man. So maybe it's recency effect. I love being in Asia and Oceania, just in part. It's very, from a growing up in Western culture and then kind of flipping over to the other side of the world. It's just, I enjoy meeting new people, learning new things, being culturally immersed outside of comfort zone. So I spent a lot of time earlier in my career in India and China. That was always very interesting to me. I think the markets over there are just so, they're dealing with different concerns, different business challenges, maybe from just the broadcast community than what the Western world, so US, North America, and Western Europe deal with. So that said, like, Asia is fantastic. I love my home turf in North America as well, and spending time with our customers all throughout the US. And then, if my wife Jen was on the call, she'd be like, well, could we spend more time in Europe, please? Because I'd love to come along with you on the work trips, even though that always sounds really nice. And then every time we talk about it, it's like, it's not practical whatsoever, because I'm in customer meetings and all day and dinners and all the things. So sounds nice. Never really happens in practice.
Hopefully you get yourself back to Seattle once in a while to watch the Mariners refuse to lose.
I hope so. I don't do it enough. Most of my family's all over the place now, so it becomes tougher and tougher. I'm the oldest of four boys, and even my parents, like, no one's in Seattle any longer, so we're all dispersed. But we do our best to find opportunities to connect when we can.
I bet backyard baseball was brilliant fun.
Oh my! It was amazing. It was generally, so we would call it wiffle ball when growing up, right? So you get the wiffle ball, you get the stick bat, and just it was. We had a lot of good memories.
I've got two younger brothers and a younger sister, and my sister didn't, but my brothers and I all played rugby. So
okay.
My parents would have much preferred it if we played wiffle ball. There would be far less injuries and black eyes and knocked out tooths and whatever else.
Absolutely.
Oh, amazing. Well, Jon, thank you so much. One final question is that we ask every guest is, what's one piece of advice you would give someone entering the content and media industry today?
Find a mentor that is going to buy in to your personal success, right? Find someone that's going to commit to that up front for you, and really lean on them, and ask them consistently to push you, right? Ask, like, it is, if you can find that person, even that one person, people would be great, right, to have a few, but even find that one person that can hold you to account. Right, that can hold you to account, to push yourself, to learn new things, to push the boundaries, and learn really what the art of the possible is for yourself. It's just so important. And so I tell that's my message to anyone that's joining Grass Valley early in their career, or even outside of Grass Valley. It's just so important. And again, I'll come back to, I've been so incredibly fortunate throughout my career to have fantastic mentors, but it's also taking the ownership as the mentee to engage, to ask them to push you, right? To ask them to help you, again, improve, be better, ultimately realize the best version of yourself. And then fast forward a few years, you realize, oh, there's even more. There's even more. There's even a better version. There's even more that I can push. And that's I think what's part of the fun of the journey.
Jon, thank you so much. Enjoyed every insight, the conversation itself, and look forward to following your journey, Grass Valley's journey over the next couple of years, months, decades, everything in between. Real pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Daisy. Pleasure. Fantastic to connect, and look forward to doing so again in the future.